Hello students. Today's session is on the first poem of class 9th, that is The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. The Road Not Taken is a very nice poem, and before moving on to the poem, first let me tell you a brief detail about the poet, that is Robert Frost. Robert Frost was an American poet and he was very famous for presenting the rural life, the ordinary life in his work. And for that, he was praised by the people. Now, let us move on to the introduction part of the poem. First of all, we'll focus on the title of the poem, The Road Not Taken. Here, the road symbolizes the life. Road symbolizes the choices we have opted in our life. And that choice which we had not taken by the poet is described here in this poem. Here, the poet describes his feelings, his experience on which he had experienced throughout his journey. The message in this poem, the poet wants to give here that in everyone's life, the phase, there is a particular phase comes in our life when we see ourselves in dilemma, and in that dilemma, we have to opt only one choice out of the two. So at that time, we should be very much focused. We should be very wise while making choices, because whatever the choice you will opt in your life, that will shape in your future, that will decide your future. So this message is given here throughout this poem. So let us go to the poem side. This is the poem. And this poem, there are 4 stanzas, as you can see. Each stanza has several devices used by the poet. So we will go through with each stanza, and I will describe you, I will explain the explanation of the stanza and the devices used as well in every stanza. So now we will move on to the first stanza, and the lines are: two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry, I could not travel both. And be one traveler, long I stood, and I looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. So basically, in the first stanza, the poet is talking about the 2 roads. As I told you earlier also, the road symbolizes the life here, the choices which we have opted in our life. So poet was standing in a forest, and there were 2 roads diverged. Diverged means divided, fogged in a yellow wood. Here, the yellow means the autumn season. Why? This is the autumn season described by the poet here. As you know that in autumn season, the trees shed their leaves, right? And the color of the leaves of the trees becomes yellow. So that is why it becomes yellow wood here. And wood is the meaning. Wood is the synonym of forest here. So the 2 roads are diverged in a forest in the autumn season. This is the meaning of first line. And sorry, I could not travel both. And here the poet is feeling sorry because he couldn't travel on both the roads simultaneously. So that is why he feeling sorry, he feels disappointed, and he find himself in confusion, he find himself in dilemma. And what he's saying in the third line: and be one traveler, long I stood, and I looked down one as far as I could. So basically, he was just standing here, was just looking at both the roads as far as he could see. To the till extent he could see, he was just looking at both the roads, right? And what he's saying that he was able to see the path till from where it curved, after which it was covered with trees and was hidden. Beyond that, it was not able to see, because he was able to see till the curve only, because after that it was covered with the trees, it was covered with the plants and bushes. That is the meaning of the fourth line. And the fifth line as well. And looked there down when as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. Okay, so this is the explanation of the first stanza. Now we will just pay attention to the certain word meanings here. Road means life here, as I told you earlier also. Diverge means to divide something. As you can see in this picture, there is a single road and now it is divided into two sides. Yellow means autumn season. Wood means forest. Undergrowth means dense growth of plants and bushes. So this is the word meanings which are used here in the first stanza. Now we focus on the poetic device used in the stanza. The first is rhyming scheme. Rhyme scheme of the stanza is AB, AAB. How? Just focus on the first, last word of the first line, would, both, stood, could, and growth. So would, stood, and could have similar sound, and whereas both and growth have similar sound. So the rhyme scheme will be A B A A B. Clear? The next device used here is symbolism. The road symbolizes choice here. Choices in our life here. So there is a symbolism used throughout the poem. The third device used is anaphora here. Anaphora means when there is a repetition of a word in the beginning of one or more many lines. As you can see in the second line, third line, and fourth line, there is a repetition of and word here. And sorry, and be one, and look down. So anaphora device is used here. Fine. So this is the explanation with literary devices of the stanza. Now we will move on to the second stanza. The lines of the second stanza is, then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that the passing there had won them really about the same. So these are the lines. Now I will explain you each line of the stanza. So basically in this stanza, the poet kept on looking at one path for a long time to check it, whether it is right for him or not, right? And then he was looking at the second road as well. And then after looking at both the roads, he chose the road which was grassy and wanted wear, which means that which means the grassy means unused here, and wanted wear means which is not used, which is not adapted by so many people, right? So in the first three lines, basically the poet was observing both the roads simultaneously, equally, and having the better claim means he was claiming which is the better one for him, first road or the second road. And then he claimed that road which was grassy and which was wanted wear. Grassy means unused, okay, and wanted wear means which is not used by so many people. So the two roads, first one was not grassy and the second one was grassy. The road which was not grassy was used by so many people, right? And which was grassy had not been used by so many people, so he opted the road which was grassy. In the fourth line, though as for that the passing there had warned them really about the same. Okay, so what he feels, that's what he's saying, that even in our life we take any path, but we should be very it looks same. What is the meaning of the last line? That whatever the road you will opt it, the benefits, the disadvantages, the problems will occur in every choice, in every option. Because whether you will opt the first one or whether you will opt the second one, you will definitely get the problems, you will definitely get the hurdles in your life, but it will remain same. This is the explanation of the second stanza. Now we move on to the word meanings here. The first word meaning is here fair, that is as good as the other one. The second is better option, means claim here. Grassy, as I told you already, unused, and wanted wear means had not been used. Okay, now we focus on the poetic devices used in the stanza. The first is rhyme scheme is same as in the first stanza, that is A B A A B. As you can see, fair goes with where and there, and claim goes with same. So rhyming scheme will be A B A A B. Now there's an alliteration device used here. As you can see, there is a repetition of "were" sound in the third line. Wanted where. So W word, that means the "were" sound is repeated here. And there is one more sound is repeated. Though as for that means though and that. The sound is repeated in the fourth line. Okay, so this is the point. These are the poetic device used by here in the second stanza. We move on to the third stanza, and the lines are: both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first one for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. So these are the lines of the third stanza, and what the poet is trying to say here, that both the path was similar that morning because both had leaves, no one had stepped on it, and was still in green color, right? So he would take one path and keep the one for another day. So what he's saying that in the morning, both the roads were equally looking. Both are same because both are covered with green leaves. As you know that the poem is designed in the autumn season. As autumn season, as you know, the tree sheds their leaves, and in that morning, the tree shed their leaves, and both the roads were covered with the leaves. And for that reason, they look totally same. No one had stepped over it, and no leaves was trodden black. So now what he decide? He will keep the first road for another day. There's a line, oh, I kept the first one for another day. So he kept the first road, which was not grassy, for another day, and he selected, he chose the road that was grassy. In the fourth line, what he's saying, that yet knowing how way leads on to way. Although he knows that he could not go back on the choice that he had not made, right? So because he was in a doubt that if he should ever come back, because he make himself satisfied that okay, I will take the second road and keep the first road for another day. But yet somehow he knows it very well that he will not be able to come back on the decision which he had not taken. So that's the poet is talking in the third stanza. Now we move on to the word meanings which are used here. The first word is trodden. Trodden means to walk over something, to step on something. The second is black. Leaves, those are still green. Why the leaves are still green? Because it was not stepped by anyone. And that's why it didn't turn into black color. Now we move on to the poetic device which is used here. The rhyme scheme is totally same as in the first and second stanza. A, B, A, A, B. As you can see, lay goes with they and way, and black goes with back. So the rhyme scheme will be A, B, A, A, B. Now there's a usage of alliteration devices here. As you can see, in the third line, first for means first sound is repeated here. So alliteration device is used here. Fine. That's all for the third stanza. Now we move on to the fourth stanza and the last stanza of this poem. The lines are, I shall be telling this with the sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. So basically, in the fourth stanza, the poet is talking about the future, that he will say in the future, he will, whenever someone asked him about his journey, about his experience, so he will say this with a deep breath. Sigh means deep breath, in a relief. Now, what will he say? And say that once upon a time he had traveled and he reached at such a point in life that there were two options for him in which he chooses the less traveled road. So that experience he will narrate with a deep breath. Fine, he will say that there were two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by. And the road which he had opted, the choice which he had opted, had shapen his life, had made all the difference. That's the poet is trying to say here. Side by side, there's a very strong message to all the students by the poet is that whatever the decision you will take in your life, you should be very wise. You should be very careful while making the choices out of the options in your life, because your future depends on the choice that you make today. So that is the strong message the poet is trying to say here, as you can relate in a very with a very general example. For example, you have just completed your class 10th, right? And when you will going to promote for the class 12th, at that time, you have three options: the science stream, the commerce stream, and the humanities. And at that time, whatever the stream you will opt, that will decide your future, that will shape your future. Okay, so at that time, you should be very wise, you should be very careful. As you all know, we find ourselves in dilemma, we find ourselves in confusion. We don't know what we have to take. But from this poem, the poet wants to say, whatever the decision you will take, whatever the choice you will take, definitely during the path of that choice, the problems, the hurdles, the so many things will come to you. But you should be very much firm, you should be very much patient, very much determined throughout your journey, because the result will be success. You will definitely reach your goal if you are very much patient, if you're very much stick on your decision. You should not be unstable. That's the poet is trying to say through this poem. So that is the last explanation, last stanza. Now we move on to the word meanings. The first word is sigh here. As I already told you, sigh means deep breath, a kind of relief. Second, the word hence here. Hence means in the future. Somewhere ages and ages hence means he is talking about the future. Okay, now we move on to the poetic devices here. The first, same rhyme scheme, A B A A B, like sigh goes with I and by, and hence goes with difference. So the rhyme scheme is same throughout all the stanzas. Now there is a repetition device is used here. As you can see in the second line, ages word is repeated here, ages and ages, right? And also there is a repetition of a single line. The line is, two roads diverge in a wood. This line is repeated. It was in the first stanza and it was in the fourth stanza as well. So repetition device is used in fourth stanza. Okay, that's all for the explanation. I hope you understand. I hope it will help you to understand this poem. Now, we move on to some important questions with answer of this poem. Question number one. Discuss the significance of the title, The Road Not Taken, as we have already discussed here. And the answer is also there to help you. So just focus on the question. Question number two. Describe the two roads that the author finds. Which road does he choose? So describe the two roads, their physical appearance, which was described in the poem, and which road does he opt, which road he chooses. As you know, he opt for the grassy one and wanted where. So you will just go through with this question. The answer is already there. Now we move on to the question number three. What was the poet's dilemma in the poem The Road Not Taken? What was his dilemma means? What was his confusion? Why he was confused while going to take a single road out of the two? Clear? And question number four, why did the poet keep the first road for another day? Why he keep the first road for another day and goes for the second one? Why he decided this? Why he decided this? Okay, so these are the important questions. The answers with answers. Now we move on to the reference to context. RTC, I have given two RTCs here. And with the help of the poem and their explanation, you will be able to give the answers of both the RTCs. So just go through with both the RTCs and try to give the answers by yourself. Now, we move on to the assignment questions, which you will have to do in your notebook. Question number one, where does the traveler find himself? What problem does he face? Okay, so where does the traveler find himself? What was the confusion he was having? You will have to give the answer of this question. Question number 2, discuss what these phrases means to you. So there are three phrases which I have given here. The first one is a yellow woods. Second is what grassy and wanted wear. And third is how way leads on to way. So all these phrases are used in the poem and I already explained here. So you will just discuss the meaning of all three phrases. Fine. Question number 4. What is the moral presented by the poet in the poem The Road Not Taken? So what is the moral value? What is the message the poet wants to give here in this poem? You have to write here. So that's all for the today. I hope you understand. I hope it will help you to understand the poem. Okay, that's all for the today from my side. Thank you so much.